That afternoon, my entire world tilted, because when I pulled into the driveway, I saw something no parent should ever see. My 18-year-old daughter hanging from the oak tree in our front yard, wrists bound with coarse rope, a bright violation notice pinned to her shirt like some grotesque badge of shame, and standing beneath her, basking in the chaos, was Karen, our neighborhood's infamous HOA president, sunglasses flashing in the evening sun, clipboard raised like a royal scepter, as if she were presiding over some twisted courtroom, declaring this spectacle as community justice, while neighbors crowded the sidewalks, some frozen in shock, some whispering nervously, others raising their phones to capture the madness as though it were entertainment, and in that instant, I felt every muscle coil with rage, ready to tear the rope apart with my bare hands, but before I could act, the ground itself began to tremble, a low, rhythmic thump, thump, thump echoing across Maple Crest, the unmistakable sound of helicopter rotors, growing louder with every second, until even Karen's smug grin flickered, because Maple Crest, on the surface, was a postcard-perfect suburb, the kind of neighborhood real estate brochures bragged about, pastel-painted houses lined up like obedient soldiers, manicured hedges trimmed to military precision, every driveway scrubbed until it gleamed, every mailbox painted the same HOA-approved beige, a place that promised paradise, but in reality, functioned more like an empire, and at its helm sat Karen Whitmore, a woman addicted not to community, but to control, addicted to the power of rules she created out of thin air, addicted to the thrill of handing out violation slips like they were royal decrees, because Karen didn't just enforce bylaws, she invented them, declaring glossy mailboxes a traffic hazard, chalk flowers, graffiti, bicycles left by the garage, unauthorized storage, and she wielded her clipboard as if it were the Constitution itself, terrifying even the most law-abiding residents into silence, until my daughter came along, fiery, stubborn, allergic to hypocrisy, and utterly unwilling to bow her head to a tyrant in oversized sunglasses, mocking her with chalk caricatures, complete with giant clipboards and villainous grins, earning laughter and secret thumbs up from neighbors who were too afraid to say it aloud, which drove Karen mad, because she didn't just crave obedience, she craved reverence, and when laughter cracked her crown, she escalated, first fines, then hearings, then public threats, until finally she declared my daughter guilty of disrespecting HOA authority, as though we lived under medieval law. And when my daughter stood her ground in front of the entire neighborhood, smirking and saying, "Newsflash, I don't even pay HOA dues, my parents do," the cul-de-sac erupted in laughter, and Karen, humiliated, hissed that she would make an example of her, which led to this, the unthinkable day she tied my daughter to a tree like some 17th century punishment, neighbors gasping but too afraid to intervene, because fear had been Karen's greatest weapon for years, silencing them into compliance, until now, because just as Karen smugly declared, symbolism matters, disobedience must be rooted out, a sound greater than her clipboard thundered in the sky, the oak tree rattling, flags whipping off their poles, hydrangeas flattening in the downdraft, as 3 massive Blackhawks crested the rooftops, circling like birds of prey, descending into Maple Crest with the kind of raw authority no bylaw could contest, their rotor wash tearing the silence apart, dust whipping across driveways, kids screaming and cheering, phones dropping to the ground as neighbors scrambled for cover, and then the soldiers came, not polo shirt volunteers with clipboards, but real professionals, helmets, body armor, tactical gear gleaming in the golden light, rappelling down ropes in tight formations, boots slamming against asphalt with thunder, moving with precision as though Maple Crest were hostile territory, one cutting my daughter free in seconds, lowering her gently to the grass, 2 more forming a protective ring, weapons raised not at anyone specifically, but as a warning, stay back, while Karen shrieked into the wind, shouting bylaws, Section 12, Paragraph 6, claiming jurisdiction, clutching her clipboard like a shield, but her words were drowned out by the roar of rotor blades. Until, with one gust, her sunglasses flew from her face and skidded across the pavement, the crowd erupting into nervous laughter, because for the first time in years, they saw her not as a queen, but as a punchline, and when the lead soldier turned his visor toward her and commanded, "Ma'am, step back," those 3 words shattered the illusion. she had built for years, because no one had ever told Karen to step back, and when he continued, "You unlawfully restrained a protected cadet," triggering a federal emergency response, the cul-de-sac gasped as the truth spilled out. Because what most neighbors never knew was that my daughter wasn't just a stubborn teen with chalk, she was a cadet, enrolled in a highly selective federal training program, carrying an emergency beacon that activated the second she was restrained, and Karen's act of cruelty had summoned forces far beyond her pastel kingdom, but still, she sputtered, "She's just a kid," she drew on sidewalks, and the soldier replied coldly, "You tied a person to a tree," handing me a sealed folder marked with insignia, declaring my daughter under federal protection, her safety a matter of national security, and as the neighbors processed this, Karen's so-called board members slithered away, suddenly, late for dinner, her once loyal subjects now filming, smirking, laughing openly, and when soldiers flanked her and reported into their headsets, subject contained, the words stripped the last shred of her identity, no longer president, no longer queen, just subject, while preliminary charges, unlawful restraint, assault, endangerment, were read aloud, her knees buckling under the weight, and the neighbors, once cowed by fines and citations, actually clapped, applauded, shouted, "About time!" and "We're done with you, Karen," while she shrieked that she was the law, that she was in charge, that she would sue everyone, but no one listened, because laughter rolled through Maple Crest like fresh oxygen, a spell finally broken, as soldiers guided her away, clipboard clutched like a broken scepter, helicopters roaring overhead, neighbors watching with awe and relief, my daughter standing tall despite rope burns, grinning through the dust, whispering to me, "She's finished." And she was right, because within days, the HOA board fractured, half resigning. The rest pretending they had never supported Karen. While federal oversight dissolved the reign of terror, neighbors showing up to meetings for the first time in years, decorating lawns freely, leaving trash cans out without fear, chalking dragons on sidewalks, children laughing in ways they hadn't in years, and my daughter became a legend online, clips of her defiance and rescue going viral, strangers calling her tougher than any HA, and when asked what she'd learned, she smirked and said, "Never give power to someone who only knows how to use it against you." While Karen faced indictments, her lawyers fumbling to call her cruelty symbolic discipline, a claim so absurd even judges laughed, her empire reduced to a national punchline, and Maple Crest, for the first time in years, felt like a neighborhood instead of a dictatorship, sunlight falling freely on porches, neighbors sharing stories, laughter replacing whispers, and when I looked at that oak tree, I no longer saw rope burns, I saw resilience, because Karen didn't lose to helicopters, she lost the second her neighbors stopped being afraid, proof that fear doesn't last, respect can't be forced, and bullies always fall when you stand tall. So remember this, whether it's an HOA tyrant, a boss, or any Karen in your life, their throne is only as strong as your silence, and the moment you stop believing in their power, they're already finished.